What's up YouTube, I'm Mike, and today I'm finally back with another video in this Bob's Steroids Test and Trend Cycle cycle log series, which has just, man, been fucking cursed since day one. Bob got sick with what I thought was COVID, and then of course, since we spent so much time together, he gave the shit to me, and so Bob and I have both been really sick for like 8 days now. I don't even know. I was going to try to make a video earlier in the week, but I was coughing up a storm and it just didn't seem to make any fucking sense. None of y'all want to sit here and look at me half fucking dead, not shaving or getting any, you know. I've just been like literally laying around the house, sleeping a ton. I thought for sure I had COVID, and I took 2 at-home tests. Both of them somehow came up negative. I've never had a cold that lasted this long. I don't know what the hell else it could have been. Just like massive chest, not congestion, but just like heaviness in the chest, pain in my bronchial tubes. And it's like I didn't really feel that bad all over. Like it wasn't like I had a flu or anything, but I could only sit up for 3 or 4 hours maybe, and then I would just be totally wasted, tired, and go lay down on the couch or lay down in bed. So I was getting up and working for a little while, doing my real job for a little while, trying to get emails and shit handled, and then just go fucking lay down. Been sitting around playing video games. And so Bob hasn't been to the gym in over, I think it's 8 days at least. I'd have to look at his cycle log to see exactly how many days he's missed. The diet is destroyed. There was days in there where Bob ate one time, you know. I mean, we had some sub 1,500 calorie days just recently. So obviously we're running test and trend at the doses I mentioned before. 500 milligrams a test. This trend, man, it seems to kind of get heavy needled. It's working its way up to 400 milligrams a week, probably like 380, something like that on the trend. And this is now week 8. So really, like I said in the beginning, this fucking cycle has been cursed. We had all the vomiting and bullshit in the beginning with the estrogen levels, and now some kind of virus, I guess, that has just really laid waste to this last couple of weeks. And it just sucks because I'd really hoped to bring you guys better content than this. I was expecting to be doing blood work at this point to try to finally put to bed that Trenbolone is hepatotoxic, because I don't believe that it is. And so we had Bob's AST, ALT levels in the beginning, and I was hoping to do more blood work in about week 8 and show that the levels had not changed at all. But I'm afraid now that that's not going to work, because it's a well-known fact that having a virus can raise your AST, ALT levels in and of itself. The fact that this just seems like a really bad cold, maybe I can do the blood work, anyway, and we'll just see what it says, and then possibly do it again in another, say, 4 weeks. Typically, Bob only runs trend for about 8-9 weeks, and he's expecting to try to push it to 12 or 14 this time. Especially with all the bullshit. I mean, at this point, part of me feels like he should just pull the plug on it. But it just seems like such a waste. There was such a hard time getting going in the beginning, and then this shit in the end. So clearly, it's become a full-blown cut, which is one of the advantages to being on trend, I guess. If you're looking for a fucking silver lining, is if you're sick and you're not eating and your body's beaten up and you're laying around all day, at least you've got the Trenbolone in the system to present its calorie-sparing, protein-sparing effects. Obviously, it's commonly used in deep cuts for contest athletes, and so we've got that in the mix. Hopefully, this last 8 days in bed haven't cost too much actual contractile tissue. Bob's physique is definitely looking softer. He's lost a lot of the hardness just due to a complete lack of pump, lack of use of the muscles at all. But I don't think we've really lost anything in the way of actual, fucking tissue in a week's time. Bob's weight is down to like 190 pounds in the morning, maybe up to 193 in the evening, and that's due to, again, just getting very little calories, probably a little dehydrated. Bob started having some crazy bleeding going on, guys. Like, fuck. Blew his nose one day, and the blood started coming and would not stop. Multiple nosebleeds every day for 3 or 4 days, bleeding in the middle of the night. It's been a fucking mess around here. Yeah, that's what's going on. one of the other things I guess is worth mentioning, just to have something to talk about, since we have nothing in the way of progress photos or cycle changes. You know, I mean, doing a steroid cycle, you're not going to the gym. It's kind of hard to make these kind of fucking videos. But one thing I guess is worth mentioning is that Bob has gone through, again for the third time, what has amounted to sort of a spiritual awakening on these fucking trend cycles. And I know that probably sounds insane to any of you who've ever, you know, who know anything about this compound. There's certainly nothing in the literature that would suggest that tren would cause any type of deep introspective state. But this is Bob's third trend cycle, and every single cycle about this point, this is what happens. It's like suddenly he starts to disconnect from the world at large and just kind of goes inside of himself and just starts kind of working on all this shit. So it's like, typically he's killing it in the gym, and that's all fine and great, but there does seem to be that emotional muting that tren can have, and so he starts kind of pulling away a little bit emotionally from his wife and his friends and whatever. And so, you know, stereotypically, it's the idea is that tren makes you angry and emotionally absent, and you know, all of the commonly, you know, considered ideas about the Trenbolone's effect and how that can be damaging to your relationships. One of the things that I would like to propose now with, you know, Bob's third cycle is that it seems to be much more than that. For Bob, he starts examining not only the people in his life, but he starts really examining himself, like trying to better understand why he does certain things, what his motivations are for certain things. It's almost like a fucking truth serum. It's like when Bob gets on the train, he has a very difficult time continuing to lie to himself about anything in his world. And so any of his insecurities can start to come to the surface, and he wants to conquer them and dominate them, because the trend does obviously give you this intense sense of well-being and self-confidence. But for Bob, it's not like blind self-confidence. It often is in the gym, but outside of the gym, he becomes very aware of his own character flaws and anything internally that he hasn't really worked out. And so in Bob's last trend cycle, he was working through a lot of sexual issues with his wife, working on a lot of different crazy shit going down that pathway. And so it seems to be more than that the trend changes you in some way that makes you incapable of having relationships. Bob has not been feeling any less desirous of his wife's touch, of his wife's companionship, of closeness with her. In fact, what he seems to find every one of these cycles is that it's not his inability to connect, but it seems like the Trenbolone puts a spotlight on what Bob perceives as his wife's inability to connect at any kind of deep level. It feels like the tren shows you that the majority of your relationships in life are very superficial, that we don't really dig deep into the people that we're in relationships with, because we're kind of in this just like, fuck it, whatever, state, like let's just have fun and go through life. And then tren seems to put this brooding on you, and you start really analyzing everyone around you. Their character flaws become more apparent, any shortcomings, any incongruity in the way you treat them versus the way they treat you. And so every single time what Bob finds is the problems that he's having in his relationships are not new problems that only came on when he started taking tren. It's problems that have always been problems. It's things that he and his wife had been fighting about since day one, or things that he disliked about his coworker since he first started working at the company, or doubts, or all of the shit that's suddenly very, very much in the forefront of his mind. These are all things that he knew well before the trend started. And he took all that shit and he was like, you know what, I don't like it, there's nothing I can do about it, so I'm just gonna tuck it in the fucking back and I'm gonna ignore it. I'm just gonna put my fucking head in the sand and hope it goes away. And then that fucking trend kicks in, and maybe it's just because you have so much energy, your mind is spinning at such a fast rate, it's like constantly looking for something to do. And so it's like it exhausts all of the fucking mundane things that it can approach. And so it digs deeper and looks for more shit to like put fuel on a fucking fire. And then all of a sudden, his wife's character flaws or the things that he feels are shortcomings in his marriage are really standing out. You know, he starts doubting, does he really like this job that he's working? Does he trust the people he works with? Does he feel like the company he works for is going in the right direction? All these things that might come up at a different time in life, and you just go, well, you know, fuck it, it is what it is. Nobody's perfect. All of a sudden it's like, okay, nobody's perfect, but it feels like I'm the only one striving for fucking perfection. Suddenly it feels like, man, I'm over here working really hard on myself, and everybody else is just kind of fucking off. They're just kind of like, they've got their head in the sand. They're fucking checked out. They're disconnected. And then suddenly it feels like their lack of work is a real problem for you. And so, I don't know, man. It's crazy. Like, Bob's been reading Carl Jung, you know, getting into some psychotherapy fucking ideas. He's been looking at religious ideas. I mean, it's been this crazy fucking deep dive down this fucking rabbit hole trying to find some meaning or purpose in this world that seems to just be falling apart around us. It's like every day, now we got fucking Omicron. And what's gonna happen? We go back to wearing fucking masks, we're gonna get locked down again, we fucking more vaccines. First it was 1 shot, then it was 2 shots. Before long, we'll all be fucking walking down the street with like a fucking IV of just COVID vaccine because everybody's fucking paranoid of this goddamn disease. It's like, you know, like I'm watching Derek from More Plates, More Dates. He's making videos about how the International Olympic Committee has decided to let fucking full-blown men compete in women's athletics, and they don't even have to do anything to lower their testosterone levels anymore. So it's not even fucking transgender anymore. It's just like fucking, we could just have Eddie Hall decide to fucking identify as a woman and go box in the fucking Olympic Games. It's like, what the fuck is going on in this place? And so Bob's over here, you know, with 400 milligrams of Tren floating around the brain going, what in the fuck world am I living in? Is this me? Or is this all fucked up? You know, like one of the saving graces for doing something like Tren, that you know going into it is very psychoactive, is the idea is that worst case scenario, the Tren is going to make you crazy. And you should be able to tell easily the difference between your crazy Tren and the normal world over here. What's the goddamn problem when the world is so fucked up that the guy on Tren seems to be the most sane person in the room? It's like, how can you fucking tell which way's up? So, there you have it, guys. This is a fucking another blast into the world of a Trenbolone cycle. Even when you strip away all the gym and the fun stuff and the bodybuilding and the bulging veins and the insane strength gains, now you're sick with a virus and you're laying in bed with nothing but your wife and Tren to keep you company. And the shit starts going off the rails, ladies and gentlemen. So again, if this has not been clear enough, I am not advocating that anyone should ever try to do this shit. It is a real mind fuck. And, but then again, I mean, I gotta be honest, so is life in this world anymore. It's just like, just fucking waking up every day and reading the news is mind fucking enough for me. So, there you have it as always. Hopefully this has at the very least been informative. I think we're gonna keep the fucking cycle going, as I said. We're gonna push this bad boy all the way until the fucking wheels fall off. So maybe we'll go 12, 14 weeks, or heart attack, whichever one comes first. I'm beginning to believe it's gonna be a heart attack. But yeah, I won't even go down that fucking road. So we're going to keep it rolling. Hopefully, Bob's starting to feel better. So hopefully get back in the gym, get his pump back, see what is underneath this flabby fucking, you know, virus-ridden physique that he's gotten from laying in bed eating shitty food for going on 8 days now. Maybe we'll get back in the swing of things, and hopefully this will be the last of the goddamn curses to come for the cycle. I think the only one left is that Bob would drop dead. So I don't know how it could get any worse at this point. I had set out to bring you guys good scientific data on what kind of progress you could expect from a cycle like this, and I feel like all that I have brought you is every conceivable thing that could possibly fucking go wrong. So there you have it. Hopefully at a bare minimum, you guys can use this experience of Bob's And I mean, if you do your own cycles, I really I don't know how you could get any worse than this. You'd be hard pressed to have a worse time than Bob has had over this last 8 weeks. And so, you know, who knows what the next video will bring? There's just no fucking telling. But I guess I'll leave it at that. And as always, we'll see you on the next one.